Hello again. I got asked a doozy of a question on Facebook Messenger the other day from one of the members of the Why Not Ask page on Facebook. And I mean, it's a big question. The question was, why is it so hard to change? That was all the question. Why is it so hard to change? Just a massive question, but I'm going to break down some of the basics, at least from the understanding that I have about this question that was presented. If we haven't met before, my name is Alex Franks, and I've spent 29 years as a life coach and therapist, and change is one of the most complicated things. There's so many factors: your personality types, your experiences, your age, your education, your family structure, your birth order, your personality type. But I'm going to try to give some just basics. So I think the first thing we need to address is, what are you trying to change? Because why is it hard to change? Well, there's a big difference in I'm trying to stop smoking and why am I struggling to go on 3 walks a week? The what you're changing plays a key role in how in the world and why is it so hard to change. So the thing you're changing can make a big difference. I mean, this may be benign to everybody, but today is a day I take our trash out. I take our trash out 1 day a week and then take it to the curb. And I used to struggle remembering when that was, and so I would miss it. Well, to create change, I started giving myself a reminder Post-it note, and I would put it beside my computer so that next day, when it was time to take out the trash, I wrote the note the day before. The next morning, I would see the note, remember I had to take out the trash, and take out the trash before I headed to the office. Matter of fact, I took out the trash this morning. I created change by just simply making a reminder. That's a lot easier than how do I make the change to save money for my vacation. Way different topics, way different issues, which are also way different than how in the world could I remember to take quiet time every morning. Because that's a little different than either of those other two topics. So that's the first issue. It depends on what you're trying to change. The second issue of why is it hard to make change is we know from scientific study that if you want to create change, you have to do the pattern for about 90 days, the new pattern. So you have to stop the old and start the new, and then do it consistently for 90 days. That sometimes gets in the way because we're people that like instant gratification. We want to know our information quickly. We're the information society. Everything's fast. We want instant feedback. And sometimes to create long-lasting change, it takes time. And time is sometimes the thing that we have the most difficulty with. So remember to give your work on change time. Here's what I think next is the biggest issue for why it's hard to change. Our personal viewpoint. It's hard to change because I often have to look at my own viewpoint, my own thinking, my own ways. Let me help you with that. If I view change as my responsibility, I'm much more likely to be successful with it. If I believe other people have to do things, if I believe that other people impact my change, if I put responsibility somewhere that's not me, my likelihood of being successful changing is pretty poor. Which takes me to the next issue. All change must be for you and you alone. It's one thing that 12-step programs have exactly right, in my opinion. They make it about the person. I must make change. I'm responsible for it. It's for me. It's why at Alcoholics Anonymous you hear, my name is Jim and I'm an alcoholic. Because it's claiming your truth. If I need to lose 15 pounds, I have to say I'm losing it for me because I need to. I can't go, well, I think my wife would like me better if I weigh 15 pounds less, so I'm going to lose it for her. Or I can't say, oh, I need to walk more because my doctor said so. Well, then I'm not likely to keep change for very long. But if I'm walking because I need to be healthier, if I'm taking care of me because it's my responsibility, it's not for somebody else, I'm going to be successful. It's often why people struggle making change with, let's say, anger. Anger is an issue that, while it might surprise some people, I struggled with a lot early in my life. As a child, as an adolescent especially, anger and I were buddies. And I often acted on that anger physically or verbally. I would be aggressive in some form or another. And sadly, it worked for me most of the time because I've always been a big guy. And so aggression could work. But here's where I needed to take my personal responsibility. When my anger was somebody else's fault, when I was the victim because of my trauma, because of my hurt, and I'm not saying trauma isn't important because I work with it on a regular basis and it matters. But I remember one time as a teenager talking to a police officer who just happened to be part of what broke up a fist fight that I was in. Not something I'm proud of. And I remember screaming at him. And my anger, and I was crying, and I was mad, and there had been about 4 of us in this fight, and I screamed at him, and I said, if you knew what I dealt with, you would know why I'm so mad. And I will never forget him looking at me. And honestly, it was probably the greatest therapy I've ever had. And he said, I don't care what you've been through. Your situation didn't make your fist hit that kid. You did. Impactful. My stuff, my hurt at that time with some family stuff had nothing to do with what my fist was doing. And I think that's when I'm talking about change being for you. That's what I'm talking about. When it's about something else, my wife needs me to. My friend thinks it'd be a good idea. I guess I oughta. Your likelihood for change is pretty poor. But the minute it's, hey, this is me. I'm not a victim. I'm not incapable. I'm not weak. I'm going to change for me, because of me, because I'm worth it. Your chance of having change last is pretty good. And I think the last thing to look at is sometimes it's hard to change because, well, we have shame and guilt for what we might lose when we change. I thought people would see me as less of a man if I became peaceful. I felt shame for having been aggressive and angry, so I stayed aggressive and angry to hide that I hurt. I had to change friends. I had to change who I hung out with. That created guilt. And guilt and shame creates difficulty for change. Sometimes we don't change because we're not willing to pay the price. Except for sometimes the greatest reward we ever get is after we pay a price. So for me, it was understanding that in weakness, there's strength. In peace, people see wisdom. In gentleness in difficult situations, people see amazing ability. Maybe having to change my friends wasn't easy. But I'd take my friends today over anybody I've ever been with. And they're not aggressive, loud, in-your-face people. But they'll set boundaries, they stand firm on principles, and they're willing to tell me the truth. And they're willing to challenge me when I step out of line. Change is hard because of what it might cost us. Because sometimes knowing the mess we're in feels safer than what we don't know. So I encourage you, if you're thinking about making change, well, identify what you want to change. Then understand that you have to create a new pattern and do it over time. Understand your viewpoint. Then make it about you. Realize that it may cost you something. And then go for it. Change is amazing. I know you can because I have. And because I'm going to a bunch more yet to come. If this content's been helpful for you or impactful, please like, comment, subscribe. It would mean the world to me. And remember, we're here to serve others, care deeply, love our people. And if you've got a question, why not ask?